face off. Now, words like painful, injustice, unfair and also biased were used when the Malaysian government announced allocation for students at public universities, and this was last month. It sparked uproar, especially among ethnic Chinese and Indians. We had some figures like only 19% of places were awarded to Chinese, 5% to Indians, and even some higher score students. They were not given the courses that they had applied for. With us in the studio today, apart from, of course, our resident guest, Ernie Chen, is YB Liu Chin Tong. Hi, Chin Tong. Welcome to our show. Yeah, taking it a step further, over 18,000, that was the figure given, and these students were not given places in public universities, even though they were qualified. What do you think?
I think, of course, if we go into the detail, we'll have a lot of unhappiness on every front. But what I'm saying is that we have to move away from the current discourse. We have to go back to why we have all this debate. Partly because when the new economic policy was designed, it was obsessed with ownership, the question of ownership, and also education opportunity. In a way, it has helped many young Malays in the 70s to actually gain opportunity through education. And perhaps education was actually the more, more successful part of the new economic policy. But I think moving forward, we have to look at the entire education system again. Do we want every child to go to university? Or do we want to strengthen vocational training? Do we want to strengthen technical training? Do we need to send on scholarship, send students on scholarship for undergraduate studies? In most countries, government sends students to do postgraduate studies. Do we have to do that? If we do not have to do that, maybe we have a lot more money for a different type of education.
Do we not want to provide the fundamentals of what education is to all children, be it whether it's vocational, whether it's tertiary? Should we not just be providing everyone an opportunity?
Yeah, exactly. So, which is why I say we have to move away from the current debate. We have to look at the resources that we have and start looking at what to do next and what to do, how to reframe the whole discourse.
So what should we be doing next?
I think vocational training should be given equal weight as tertiary education. Now here in Malaysia, we think that vocational training is second class, this for students who are not very good. But if you go to Germany, if you go to some other countries, actually vocational training is an essential part of the education system.
But hasn't the government done that? They have actually moved the name from Majlis Latihan Vocational to Jabatan Pembangunan Kemahiran by giving it a change of name, wanting to raise
that's the last thing that's the only thing they do.
But it doesn't seem to be taking off.
Implementation.
It doesn't seem
I
to be
think
taking off.
the implementation has to be you have to think about the whole economic structure as well. When you have a country that continues to import foreign workers and not actually stress on skilled labor and do not pay for skill, who wants to get an education? See, my approach to, for example, the question of why there are so many female students in the university, 65% of universities are actually filled by female, and male do not go to universities.
These are public universities.
Partly it's because for most young Malays, why should I get into a university when I don't, if I get a degree, I don't get better pay? I mean, young graduates, especially male graduates, when they come out, they don't get extra pay.
But you're singling out the Malays here.
In particular, Malay youth, they will say that I don't actually get extra pay from university education. But when you rethink the whole system, when you say, okay, let's end cheap foreign labor, let's force everyone to. And of course, not only forcing the industry, but helping the industry to move up the technological ladder. Then you say, okay, then we have to hire skilled labor. We have to pay people more. When you start doing that, then there is a value to vocational training.
But isn't that what exactly is happening? I mean, we're not going to be getting maids anymore from Indonesia by 2017, as reported. And the whole idea is that shouldn't our Malays be trained as skilled house helpers? Instead of calling them maids, we can have house helpers. And if you look at the Malaysian situation, we have a lot of parents that are aging, we have a lot of children that really need professional helpers skills. And I believe the the demographics of the Malays especially, will be very suitable for that particular position.
Do we have courses for this?
Yeah, I think those are areas where we should venture into. But ultimately, the moment we import foreign workers, everything else won't work. So that we have to look at the economic structure. We have to say that, okay, let's think of this example. A garbage truck. Okay? Let's move to the lowest possible jobs in our society. Imagine that, can we pay a garbage truck driver 2,000 a month?
Why not?
Yeah, you say why not? But that
We make it multitask.
Yeah, exactly. So in Australia, a garbage truck is usually driven by one person, and he handles the entire truck. No one else does anything. There's no other employee. There's only one person driving the truck. But the problem with Malaysia is that because contracts are given to cronies, because cronies doesn't make enough because they sub it to another person and another person. The final subcontractor doesn't get much. You say, okay, let's pack it with foreign workers.
But it sounds to me like you're talking about corruption then. It goes back to fundamental corruption.
Cronism.
They will say, oh, it's not corruption. But I think cronism, or our economy is very cronistic. I think that's the best way to describe our economy. For every foreign workers that comes into this country, someone somewhere make a cut.
But is that the way the country is progressing forward? And a former Prime Minister will always be saying that as long as the country is moving forward, you've got to know how to do what you need to do so that the country move forward. If you don't do, then some sleeping Prime Minister will not be able to let things move forward.
Literally.
There's those are the comments that's stated out there.
And with this view also that Tong has actually said, but it also brings us back to the fact that whether meritocracy, which has been championed by so many parties out there, is actually being implemented.
I actually, frankly, I think this.
Not
everyone will like what I say.
Yeah, and we are suffering a brain drain.
Yeah, I think meritocracy may not necessarily be something that we all aspire to. In the sense that I do think that the university needs to have diversity. Okay? The university needs to help the poor Chinese, the poor Indians, the poor Malay.
Because there are poor Chinese out there.
The only
and
question
poor
is,
Indians, of course.
The only question is, do we want to do to have this what they call to extend this helping hand only at the university level, or we actually extend this helping hand to ensure that primary education is good everywhere. Secondary school education is good also, even in the deepest what they call jungle of Sarawak. Children are getting decent primary education, decent secondary education. I think our debate focus at the end at a very narrow place called university, but we actually don't talk about the quality of education in primary school. We don't talk about quality of education in the secondary school.
If you were made Minister of Education, what would be the first thing that you will be making sure happens so that the future of Malaysian education and also future of Malaysia will be taken care of?
I think the first thing the Education Ministry has to do is to stop thinking about building a lot more buildings and all this, but to actually focus on
green
teachers.
Buildings. That's what we're into now.
I think they should focus on building teachers. They should focus on giving more opportunity for teachers to improve on their own. To continue
to better themselves,
and actually to help them. I think the problem now is that there are too much bureaucracy. Teachers are forced to sit in front of computers to fill in grades and all this nonsense, which is not the essential part of education. And I think also education is too centralized. We are trying to run education as if you can actually report everything to, including attendance, student attendance, and as if Muhyiddin is going to care.
Well, the Muhyiddin, the Deputy Prime Minister and also the Minister of Education, has just announced that the 25-year education blueprint will be launched starting tomorrow. And although there are a lot of unhappiness over it, it will be launched. So what do you have to say about that?
I think there was one key element which the current government is not prepared to deal with. In the document and in the discussion, one of the key feature is eventually you have to decentralize. Okay? That was in the spirit of that document. And all these trips that our officials have made overseas comes back to one simple point. education cannot be run with an iron fist from the top. If, for example, we have local government election, and for example, local government are tasked to handle primary education.
So let them handle.
Yeah, let's imagine this scenario. When the local government is forced to handle or is tasked to handle primary education, you think that they will be more responsive to local needs? I think they will. I think if the local government is asked to run primary education, state government is asked to run secondary education, I think they'll be very responsive to community demand.
So what are we going to do about these 18 students who have
18,000 students.
Yeah, 18,000 actually, to be exact.
Yeah, I guess the problem is that we are all stuck in this current debate. We are all stuck in this current debate. Of course, on a case-by-case basis, all politicians would want to help on a case-by-case basis.
So are we helping them? Are they getting placement? Are they going anywhere? I mean, there's been debates and debates and debates. The students
discussions
and
discussions.
And the students are still waiting.
Yeah.
So where do they go? Do they have anywhere until Singapore say, come, we welcome you.
Or Taiwan.
Or I'll open the whole university just to fill you up.
Yeah. And the latest, the cabinet is saying that they want to intervene and discuss this further.
And then because there are
we don't hear anything after that.
Because UMNO election is coming, so there are more difficult problem to handle, so it has to be delayed. I think that's the whole point that I'm saying. We are all stuck in this old debate, and this debate started in the 60s. Started in the 60s for the last 50 years.
So where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? I think if the government is prepared to say, okay, let's see things beyond just race, beyond race. Let's look at primary education. Let's look at secondary school education. Let's look at vocational training. Let's provide.
And I think we should be colorblind towards talents.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we are still looking at the 18,000 students, majority Indian and also Chinese. And are we saying because there's no more space in tertiary, in local universities, and so forth and so on? So should we be removing these current students, 18,000 from the existing system based on meritocracy, and where do they go then? And by giving this 18,000 students spaces, we are removing 18,000 away. So what should we do?
I think that debate, which is why I say that debate is a zero-sum game debate. That debate is a zero-sum game debate because if we enter into that debate, that means you have to take away something from the other person, and because everything is defined with race, everyone gets worked up. But my point is that let's imagine one day that we don't have to send undergraduate students on scholarship. Everyone has to study here, and we have to produce world-class university for everyone to study.
Yes, actually, we were just coming to that. I understand that even one student who does PhD in UK, for example, the government spends nothing less than 1 million ringgit a year.
Yeah, for PhD, oh no, I think for the entire course.
For the entire course, and for their families to be there.
Yeah. If you're a PhD student, I think for the entire course, it costs the government about 1 million ringgit. But I think for PhD student, for master student, it is worthwhile. Because university education is not just about getting a degree. University education is about doing research.
But do you have to go overseas to do it?
I think when you do master degree, when you do PhD, it's worthwhile. My question is, do we need to send students to do first degree overseas?
Well, you're using public funds.
I think,
how sure are we that these students are going to come back and work?